Good morning and welcome to Teach Me Bees. I'm your host, Dave Wescott, with co-host Scott the Beekeeper. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well today. I got a great night of sleep last night, so can't say that every night. So we're doing well this morning.
That's awesome. Nothing like a great night of sleep. I'm wondering where I should go with that. Listen, today we're talking about swarming and Teach Me Bees. That's what it's all about here. Today, we're talking about Teach Me Bees, and this is the journey of what it's like to keep bees. So if you've thought about bees, if you've wondered about bees, if you've wondered about having bees in your backyard, having honey, having natural honey. If you've wondered about any of those things, this is the podcast for you. We have a good time. We laugh. We get off topic from time to time. We have a good time. But it's all about bees and our love for bees and why bees make the world a better place. And, it's interesting because I was at a dinner last night and, we were talking about bees. People were saying, "Oh, what is this new thing you're doing? I've seen it online, bees." And, I'm talking to some people and they're like, "Oh man, we've thought about having bees and my husband was thinking about having bees and, and we were talking about it. And that means that we would have more bees in the flowers and more bees in the bushes and more bees around our house. And so, we just didn't want to get stung." And so we said, bees aren't for us, and I shared with them that, a lot of what is produced today from a pollination standpoint comes from the backyard beekeeper, and that, these bees are actually very gentle.
Yeah.
They're very, very gentle. Now, you can stick your hand into the hive and you can let them crawl on you. I've got some cool pictures with, them, right here on a piece of paper where I'm holding it. Like the thing I think is important is that these bees that we have as beekeepers, for the most part, are very docile.
Yeah.
They're very relaxed. They're not into stinging you. They don't want to sting you. Some of the things that you might learn about bees are that, if you wear white, the reason why beekeeping suits are white is because white is very unoffensive to the bee.
Yeah, it's not an aggressive color.
It's not an aggressive color. And bees don't like big, dark colors. Like they don't like black colors. So don't wear black sweatshirts, black pants, that sort of things around a hive.
Yeah.
Dark blue, any of those colors, because they associate that with a bear. Like a bear coming to get their honey. So that's kind of just a warning mechanism. But even if you're wearing dark colors, even if you're wearing, blacks and blues and dark blues and navy blues or whatever, like in my experience, they still haven't become aggressive.
Yeah.
So bees are very, I like to think of them as very sweet creatures. But I think there's such a, there's such a
stigma.
Stigma around, getting stung and the pain that comes with getting stung. And people kind of take all sorts of flying insects with stingers and they lump them into one category called bees. And
not true.
And it doesn't matter if it's the yellow jacket or it's the wasp or it's the hornet or the bald-faced hornet or the giant Asian hornet. Like it doesn't matter, the bumblebee, the honeybee. The sad thing is they all kind of get lumped into the same I'm going to sting and hurt you.
Yeah.
Bucket. And I think that is a big miss when it comes to bees. Bees are gentle, bees are kind, bees are loving, bees are sweet, bees make honey. And so I think that's just a good thing to talk about, because having bees is really an important thing. Having bees is a beautiful, there's a beautiful art, there's a beautiful thing to having bees. And today on episode 10, one of the things we're talking about is swarming.
Yeah.
And a swarming hive for because the majority of people who keep bees are backyard beekeepers. right?
Yep.
One hive.
Most people are 1 and 2,
3, 4, whatever.
Few hives.
Few hives.
Yep.
So the truth of the matter is that a swarming hive can be very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
True story. I'm in my backyard. Neighbor has bees.
Okay.
The bees start to swarm. It's extremely frightening.
Did you hear the buzzing and the take flight and everything?
It's like a horror movie. Listen, because like you're like it's like a cloud of bees, and it's like, okay, we're going to die. That's literally the feeling that you have. But the truth of the matter is that's not actually what's happening. You're not actually going to die.
They're not coming. They're not targeting you.
They're not going to swarm your face like you're.
Maybe if you're allergic, that fear's not entirely irrational. But they're not coming for you.
Yeah, they're not coming for you. Have you ever seen those movies, Final Destination?
I have not.
Ralph, have you seen Final Destination?
I have seen Final Destination. It's why whenever I see one of those logging trucks, I literally freak out because of that one scene where the logging truck and all the logs fall. And I don't want to talk about it. Yes, I've seen it.
I love Final Destination. I think they're some of the best movies.
Oh, they're great.
I liked every single one of them. But I can only imagine a Final Destination where a swarm of bees comes up and then attacks your face, and it's like, and then you die.
I mean, that's a horror movie for sure.
That doesn't happen in real life.
No.
So when you see this swarming, and like, you know, we don't know what's happening when this beehive is swarming. We just go in the house and are like, oh my gosh, is everything okay? We're looking out the windows. Is this going to go away? Like, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't know as the people on the other end, but it's very alarming and it's very, very scary if you're on the other side. And I think that's part of the bee stigma, because those bees are actually gentle and they're actually kind. So talk to us a little bit about swarming. What is it? How do you calm it down? What's going on?
Yeah.
What is the real truth about
swarming?
About swarming.
Yeah. So swarming, as Dave said, maybe you see a group of bees flying away, and you know the buzzing, and you're afraid, or you know whether you're a new backyard beekeeper or someone who's got no experience, like those can be pretty terrifying things. So a swarm, in its simplest sense, is a group of bees that leaves the hive with the original queen intending to start a new colony. For one reason or another, they have left the hive. And if you think about the honeybee in its natural habitat, not inside of a bee box, but living in a tree or on a branch of some sort, that's the natural way of honeybee reproduction. That's how hives naturally would be reproduced in the wild. Now, side note, most swarms that leave your apiary, that leave the bee yard, that go into the forest or wherever they're not supposed to be. Sometimes they'll go into like a sewer or a house. You know, you see the Save the Bees people and different stuff rescuing bees from these places. Most bees, at least in the Pacific Northwest, that go out, that swarm on their own, they won't survive the winter. So it's actually beneficial for them to be in the care of a beekeeper so that they do survive the winter, right? We don't want our bees just to go off and die. And so keep that in mind as someone who you might be thinking about the bees and like, oh, let them go into nature. Well, there's a really good chance they won't actually survive on their own. Our winters are just too harsh for them.
Too
often.
wet.
Yeah, too wet.
Moisture is a killer.
Yep. Snow can hit and kill. Like it's difficult for them to survive on their own, which is why most bees exist in bee yards under the care of a beekeeper. And so swarming is when the hive splits. And typically that happens for one of two reasons, and in a seasonal window. Most of the time it'll happen May or June. It potentially could happen earlier or later, but most of the time, at least here in the Pacific Northwest, or maybe even at least this side of the mountains in the western Washington region, it'll happen in that window. And so swarms, the two reasons that they will happen One is a reproductive swarm. As I mentioned, swarming is a natural way of reproduction. That happens early in the season. So kind of coming out of winter and where the hive population is lower, when they begin to get the nectar flow and such, and growth begins to happen, the queen begins to lay a lot more brood. That's when the population will increase. So let's just say the hive's reduced to 1 box for the winter. Well, if their population is increasing quickly, they might need to get to a second box. And if there isn't a second box, to the bees, there's no room in the hive. And so we need to go start our own hive. And that's where a split will happen. So that's, if you put a second box on there and it grows full, they need a third box. The same thing will happen where they're going to say, some of us got to leave so that this hive can still function. Reproduction's a main reason that swarming happens. Another reason that swarming happens is overcrowding, which I was kind of alluding to. Populations get too big for the space that they have. So on the one hand, if there's just not enough room, that causes probably swarming more than anything.
I hate not having enough room.
I know, man. When you don't have enough room after a nice Christmas meal, you gotta have your sweats on so you can grow a little bit. Or when you're in a house and you got too many people staying over, you want your own bed. Not enough room.
That's an interesting question. I just want to think about it like this: when you get married, do you think it should be 2 beds or 1
in the house?
Yeah,
I mean, probably 1. But if you got guest bedroom, that's fine. Whatever.
I mean, there's some thought to what if you sleep in one bed and your wife sleeps in another?
As one who, my wife just slept on the couch for the last few nights because she is sick.
Was that
she
nice?
was coughing. I didn't sleep as well as I normally do. So she rejoined the bed, and I still had a great night of sleep last night. Wrapping back to the very beginning.
So you appreciate the comfort.
I do, and I don't know what it is, but just having that other person around is comforting. Yeah.
So you like it. So you wouldn't
but
say.
If I was a bee, I'd kick her out.
So you wouldn't say, hey, I want my own bed. I want my own space. I'm going to sleep better without the
not anymore.
Extra blankets and the extra leg thrown across you and the.
Well, as a bachelor, I may have thought that, but not right now. And maybe one day when I have kids and they disrupt my sleep and everything, I might feel that way. I don't know.
What do you think, Ralph?
Well, here's the thing. I like sleeping in the same bed as my spouse, but yeah, I think you and I can both attest that when Scott becomes a parent and
it'll change things.
3, 4, 5 people all in the bed with legs and ankles and elbows and everything on those nights they try to crawl in the bed with you.
No.
That's when you leave extra blankets in the room and you say, grab your pillow. You can sleep on the floor right next to us.
Oh, that's a good move.
Yeah, that is a good move. I like that move. The thing is, sometimes they just crawl back in.
Yes,
so
they do.
Listen, when the kids crawl back in, I literally just go to the guest room. The guest room's all set up. As soon as they come right in, I don't try to wake anybody up. I just hop right out, go right down to the guest room, bam.
Now,
out.
See, that's good. I think that's a good reason to have a guest room right there.
It's a great reason to have a guest room.
How often do you use your guest room for yourself or a guest?
A guest rarely.
Okay.
Myself once a week.
Okay.
But I mean, let's be honest here. When the kids are sick,
yeah,
they want mom.
They don't want us.
No, they don't want us. When the kids are sick, they want mom. And when the kids are sick, it's like, oh, come here, snuggle. So they're going to lay in bed with mom.
Have fun, mom.
But that's what moms do. That's why moms are amazing.
Yes.
That's the beautiful thing about moms. So when the kids are sick, I try to go and I won't just go to the room next door. I'll go to the room downstairs. I'm going to get as far away from that sickness
as I can,
as humanly possible.
That's right.
So that might put me downstairs for a week.
You're like the drone in the hive, just kind of.
I'm just okay with it.
That's why when you're at the
I'm okay with it.
the first thing you check when you're looking to buy a new couch is, can I lay out on this thing and fall asleep on it?
Yes, I'm a believer in this.
Bumps on the armrests or anything like that. It's like, can I sleep on this couch if necessary?
I'm a believer in this. I'm a big believer in this, and you want to have a nice, comfortable bed that's good. But as a bigger gentleman, I find that rolling over is not the easiest thing on a comfy bed. Like, I kind of get stuck. And it's kind of like, because I'm a big guy, I weigh 330 pounds, like in the middle of the night, it's like, my sciatica is killing me all night long. I can barely walk if I get up in the night. I got to make sure I'm not going to fall over like an old man. My ankle's killing me from being broken, and I'm trying to turn over, and it's like, I got to grab the top of the bed. I got to grab this. I got to pull myself around. I got to flip over. My
it's like
pillow,
a workout in the middle of the night.
Listen, man, my pillow is razor thin, because if it's too thick, I'm going to end up with a neck ache and a splitting headache in the middle of the night. And then I'm going to be taking a shower and eating 8 aspirin, And so I've got a razor thin pillow. It's my pillow. Don't put a different color pillow sheet on it, because if you take my pillow, it's going to jack up my sleep rhythms. I got my arm underneath my head like this. My pillow's cracked up on it. It gets me at the perfect height, so my shoulder starts hurting in the middle of the night from being in this position. Sometimes my arm falls off the bed. My elbow starts hurting from the pain. Like,
it's a whole thing for you, man.
Dude.
Your bedtime rhythms are something else.
Dave, it's a surprise that we haven't gotten here one morning and found you outside swarming. Up against one of the poles or posts.
I don't know, Ralph. We're in the same age bracket.
Same age bracket and somewhat same size bracket. Yeah.
So I mean, are your sleeping rhythms are they as disheveled as mine?
Well, Dave, the fact that off camera here that I've been literally raising my hands in praise and amening you the whole time and going, yes, sir. Yeah, I mean,
they resonate
that's
together.
An average night. Now, I have the advantage of the fact that I have one additional thing, which is I have sleep apnea. So I have the big Darth Vader mask on me.
You know what? I have the sleep apnea too.
And that CPAP machine has, I can get a solid 6 hours of sleep. No problem.
Now let me tell you what.
Does it knock you out?
No, listen.
No, it doesn't knock you out.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about the sleep apnea. This is actually a true thing. Gosh, this show is wrecked. Okay. Listen, here's the thing about the sleep apnea. This is no joke. I'm supposed to use this machine that you use. I don't use it.
Oh.
And here's the deal. Because I don't want to go to sleep looking like Darth Vader. I haven't got myself around to being able to do this yet.
You gotta let your pride go a little bit around that.
I'll be like this, and this is what happens. I'll be asleep. This is me pretending to sleep, and I stop breathing. I'm not breathing. Amy's counting. Sometimes she thinks I'm dead.
Yeah.
And then she says, I wake up and I'm like, and I'm gasping for air.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then I'm awake gasping for air because I can't breathe. And she says that I do this all night long.
Mm-hmm.
And you just fall right back asleep?
I mean, I don't even really know it's happening.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just there. But like, I mean, she says that she has literally tracked me not breathing for over a minute.
Yep.
At what point are you pronounced dead and come back to life?
I mean, I don't really know the answer to that question. But what I need to do,
I don't think you want to know the answer to that
what
question.
I need to do is stop swarming the mother effing fridge at 10 o'clock at night and 7 o'clock in the morning and noon and 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Back to swarming.
And if I stopped swarming the leftovers and I stopped swarming the fridge and I started swarming in the gym, I may not have half the problems I have because they're all related to weight. So,
which,
as a grown man that you are,
yes, thank you,
on the younger side of
Life.
on the younger side of manhood, which is a beautiful thing, by the way. I want you to know I
Thanks.
appreciate that about you.
Thanks.
It's not a bad thing. It's the most beautiful of things. Your body is a perfect fine-tuned specimen at this particular moment.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
And the truth of the matter is, at 29 years old, your body stops just making muscle. Like, it just doesn't just make muscle anymore. You got to work at it. Things start going backwards. The pounds creep on a little quicker than they did in the
Your
in the
knees start
past.
hurting. Your back starts hurting.
Your knees hurt. Your back hurts. Your leg hurts. Your leg burns. Your sciatica hurts. I mean, everything hurts.
Mm.
So right now, you're in the prime of your life.
Thank you.
You're enjoying sleeping in the same bed as your wife. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And for Ralph and I, we're not old, by the way. We're middle-aged.
I like that.
We're middle-aged.
Middle age.
We're turning the
The corner?
the corner, if you will. See, as you get older, the words come slower and slower.
Life slows down a little.
And so, actually, well, you wish, you would hope, but with kids, it actually seems more chaotic.
I've heard.
You've heard?
I've heard.
So
Yep.
when are you guys having a baby?
To be determined a few years from now.
To be determined right now. Listen, okay, you brought up reproduction, so we're gonna, like reproduction. Here's what I have to say about reproduction. Reproduction in the home is one of those things that is, very dangerous. And I'm not talking about running around in your bee suit trying to poke somebody or sting somebody. What I'm talking about here today is this is, I think, the biggest thing. And I don't know if you know anybody like this, but I've known several people over the years who, are like big on the birth control.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a believer in no birth control. Use alternative methods to not have a child, because it's been my experience that when you put those things into your body, birth controls, those little IUD things, I don't know all of the details to it all. Sometimes it can make having a baby later like really hard. Like really hard. You know what I mean? So like I'm a believer, if you want to have kids, stay away from those things, because I've known several people who I'm friends with over the years. Actually, I can't think of a single person that I've been friends with over the years who's been on some kind of birth control who hasn't had a very hard time having a child.
I don't know for sure. I'm not a medical expert by any means.
What do you think, Ralph?
I know my wife was on birth control for the first 2 years of our marriage, and it took us 2 years. Once we were ready to start a family, it took us 2 years for that to work itself out of its system for us to conceive.
Bingo.
Yeah. So it took a long time on the specific type of birth control that Stacey was on for it to get out of your system. So
yeah,
it kind of made it difficult, because every month would go by, it's like, oh no, and
it's stressful.
It is.
You start thinking it's something wrong.
Other things are wrong.
Are my swimmers working the way they should?
Yeah. They're not swarming right.
I often think, should I try it on somebody else real quick to make sure it still works? Or is that not allowed? Is that swarming?
Not recommend
is that
that
swarming to another hive?
That is swarming in a different way. And so when a swarm does happen in your bee yard,
how do we get back to bees?
Way to be back around.
Teach me
Scott.
bees.
Well done.
There's a few things to look for.
Yes.
One, if you actually see the swarm, then hey, it's swarming. But before that, if you inspect your hive and you look and you see new queen cells, whether they're capped or uncapped, will kind of give you a where the hive is at, kind of on the timeline. If they're uncapped, means a queen has not been been birthed yet, or that the embryo and the larvae is not pupated. However, it could also mean if you haven't looked at your hive in like 3 weeks that a queen has already emerged. It takes 16 days for a queen to be birthed and emerge inside the hive. So if you notice that a queen cell, which is larger than just your typical capped brood within the hive, typically they'll put that on the bottom of the frame. If you notice that, then you have potentially a problem on your hands. You don't want to kill the queen cell that you're noticing because something may have happened to the queen that's in the hive. So you need to identify, is the old queen still there?
Wow.
It could also be something. So don't kill the queen that's there. So you need to identify is what's happening. You might be able to mitigate it by placing another box on the hive, allowing space to grow. You could potentially, after some time passes, kill those queens, but I really, really recommend doing that. So pay attention to what's going on inside your hive. A way to avoid swarming. Typically, commercial beekeepers do what they call splits. And so splits is an artificial way to swarm. Most of the time, your hives are going to want to swarm after the winter into the spring, early summer. And so if ahead of time, you split your hive, so if one hive becomes 3 or 4, depending on how large it is, how healthy it is, that's a way that you can mitigate the likelihood that swarms are going to happen in your bee yard. If you're a backyard beekeeper and you don't want to grow your bee yard, if you don't want one hive to become 2 or 3, if you don't want 2 to become 4, 5, or 6,
you eat the bees.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. You could potentially give away or sell your bees to someone else. Or you could allow a swarm to happen and just know they're going to go somewhere and likely die. I would encourage you to expand your bee yard or to give them away. Having bees, that's a natural thing that's going to happen. So know it ahead of time as you get started in beekeeping that swarming is going to happen.
So, Scott, quick question.
Yeah.
How far away does a swarm usually go from its initial or original hive?
You know, that's a great question. I don't know if there's a definitive answer. What I will say is the swarm will leave the hive and stay near the bee yard initially, and they'll send out scout bees to look for a new home.
That's right.
And roughly, you have anywhere from a couple hours to probably 24 hours to catch that swarm before they go to their new home. And then you probably won't find them. And that new home could be in a tree not far away, and maybe you do find them. That new home could be in an abandoned home of some sorts, or pretty much anywhere that has a hollow space for them to live, or a tree branch that that feels natural for them to hang from and to begin starting their comb and such. But you have kind of that few hour window to recapture the swarm and bring it back to your apiary, to your bee yard. However, you don't want to put that right next to the hive that it came from, because that's going to confuse the bees that left. Okay, so do we go back to the old hive? Do we have this new hive? What's going on? They're confused. They have new queen scents. Like a new queen has emerged in the place they left, and it gets very confusing for the bees. So if you do bring them back, go ahead and put them in another location. I've heard that you would like to put them up to a mile away potentially. That may not be realistic. So do as best as you can, and know that there might be some confusion in those hives. You can put a brood frame or 2 into the new hive to kind of jumpstart it, and that should mitigate any bees that are confused and fly back to the other hive or something along those lines. So catching a swarm, pretty important. I would recommend trying to split them if you can. That's where nuke hives come in, and I think we've talked about it a little bit here.
Yep.
That's a new hive, a nuclear hive that you can get from a commercial beekeeper that you can buy, and we're getting some of our own in the spring. So that's in a sense some swarming.
So we've got some
101.
We've got some prevention tips here too, and so give the bees room to grow. Right.
Yeah.
If they don't have room to grow another box, they will feel the need to leave.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like the kids in the bed thing. When the top hive body and box becomes 3/4 full, it is time to add to the next box.
Yeah.
So that means
So
you got to be actively in your hive.
So typically, if you have an 8-frame box, do the math. That's 6 of your frames being full. If you have a 10-frame box, that's a little more than 7. So 8 frames being full. If that's the case, hey, it's time to add a new
you
box.
are just an impressive wealth of knowledge.
I've read a lot-ish.
I mean, you are just one heck of a beekeeper.
Well, I'm something. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'm something.
Something. I thought he was going to say, I'm an Oregon Ducks fan.
I am that, but we don't need to go there today.
Scott says, I kind of like Scott's over there on the other side of this call, and I like to throw these little landmines out. And I feel like Ralph kind of encourages me to throw these landmines out.
I would never encourage you to do such a thing.
I kind of feel like Scott's meandering here, and he's kind of saying, okay, that landmine, got to avoid that. All right, bring us back on topic. All right, we're going to avoid that landmine. We're going to bring us back on track.
Yeah.
We're having a good time.
We're having a good time. It's Teach Me Bees. I hope you've learned something so far. If you get a swarm, I highly recommend call a beekeeper. Call multiple beekeepers to get advice.
Call us.
Call us
for help. We're gonna hook you up.
Call whoever's local. If you're not local, like we're not gonna drive 6 hours.
Don't call us if you're far away,
but,
like Massachusetts. But listen, I will come out there in my bee suit.
Who would love to see Dave catch a swarm? I would. This would be fun.
You know why he wants me to catch a swarm? Because he thinks it'd be a mess.
I think it'd be fun. We will 100% film that and upload it when it happens.
You know how I envision myself catching the swarm?
How?
I'm just gonna tell you, like, I show up and I got my bee suit on and I'm ready to go, and I don't wear any gloves because I'm a bee expert. And I grab my
one with nature.
And I grab I'm completely naked underneath.
I'm sure he's gonna wear something because getting stung is not fun.
I'm just kidding. I'm fully clothed underneath my bee suit, and I grab my Halloween bucket, and it's extra size so I got a lot of candy in there, and I go to the honey mill, and I fill up the bottom half of the Halloween bucket with honey, and I go up to the hives, and I grab a sifter, like for sifting flour.
Uh-huh.
And I've got my sifter, and I've got my Halloween bucket, and my Halloween bucket is filled with honey, and I just go up to the swarm and I tack it from both angles, and I bring the bucket and the sifter in together, and I smoosh the bees into the bucket, and I've got them, and they're captured, and they're all in there buzzing around in my Halloween bucket, and I carry it, and it's got the little jack-o'-lantern smiley face on it. I put a couple of zip ties on that bad boy, big zip ties, and I throw it in the back of my truck, and I take it back, and I put it into a bee box.
So some good ideas there. If you're going to catch a swarm, you could use a nuke hive box. You can use a cardboard box. I've even heard you could use a pillowcase. Anything just to carry the bees in. If you can get the queen in, the rest of the hive will follow.
That's what you want, actually. You actually, in all seriousness, you want to have like a bee clip. And you basically, you want to get on the swarm, and you want to find the queen. You want to grab the queen, but you don't want to touch the queen with your fingers because you don't want to ruin her scents.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to
potentially kill her.
You don't want to potentially kill her. So you want to be very careful of the queen. You want to put the queen in a clip. You probably, want to have a bee box with you, and you want to get that queen inside of that bee box, and you want the bees will follow her in. That's the truth. The story that I told you about the honey and the jack-o'-lantern and the flour sifter, I just made that up for the
that's for fun,
just to have a good time on the show. And
that's going to make a great thumbnail for this podcast, though.
It's going to be a great thumbnail. And you know what? The truth of the matter is, I'm probably upsetting like the natural flow of the serious beekeeper.
Probably.
I can only imagine the PhDs out there are cringing.
Listening to what you have to say?
Listening to what I have to say. Because, I'm kind of making some joke about it. But listen, I'm serious about this thing. And
swarming's important.
I love bees. And I think that we need to We need to have a good time with bees. And the truth is, swarms can be caught in a nuke box, cardboard box, or just about anything to get them back into the apiary and into a hive box. And, that's the truth. And if the swarm came from your hive, it's a good idea to locate the new swarm hive near the hive it came from, as it confuses the bees. So don't do
Not
that.
near. Yeah.
Don't do that. It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say. So anyways, that's swarming. Listen, we've got a really exciting episode. I think it's coming up next week, right? Where we're going to talk about
We're talking
dishes,
about some fun honey recipes.
honey recipes.
We're talking
things
about
we can
honey
do.
and just it's the holiday season, and so we want to make a little holiday special, if you will.
Does anybody eat bees or bee brood? This is the thing I want to get back to. I wonder if we can do some research.
We will address that question in the next episode of Teach Me Bees.
All right. This has been Teach Me Bees. It's been a great time. Listen.
It's been splendid.
Dang it.
Good job. Thanks for joining us today on Teach Me Bees.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on the super swarming show, Teach Me Bees. Listen, have a great day.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm Dave Wescott. Follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram,
Twitter, X,
TikTok,
whatever it's called
X,
these days.
all of them. Just look me up on every
Follow
single
Honey
one and
for
follow
Hope.
me. Follow Honey for
Teach
Hope.
Me Bees
Follow
on your
Teach Me
podcast
Bees.
platform or on video.
Follow us all and have a great afternoon. We'll be back next Thursday. Thank you very much.
All right.